So, I consider myself a bit of a gearhead. As a guitar player, this isn't really a surprise, we're kind of notorious for it, but in particular, I am a gearhead. In every aspect of life, if I get into something and it has something technical involved with it, I tend to really get into the gear. It's always been electric guitar, but then more recently it's also been camera stuff and going off the deep end in that. It's not so much that I want to understand everything about it, I just want to know what's the best thing for me to use, how can I get better results with what I have, etc., etc. So, there's one area where I am a gearhead, but I'm a little bit cheap, and that's with plugins and free samples and loops and really just anything related to software. If I have a free option that is able to do what I need it to do, then that's what I want to use. I don't want to spend a bunch of money on it. I've already got guitars and amps and pedals and other things that are tangible to spend money on. And frankly, I'm a musician. I'm not made of money. I don't live off of a ton of excess money. I've got student loans. I've got a mortgage. I don't want to spend a bunch of money on programs, subscriptions, and all of this other stuff. So, in the spirit of that, I have put together my favorite free music software. Now, this is stuff that you can use to create your own music, or even simple things like being able to collaborate with other musicians and send them files. So I'm going to break down this list and I'm going to save you a little bit of money. Here we go. So the first thing that you need before you can use any of this other software really is a DAW. And if you're not familiar, DAW stands for Digital Audio Workstation. Now, your DAW is essentially where you are going to be recording your music or putting together your loops and your samples and essentially building your track. This is where it all really comes to life. This is where you turn it into a song. This is where you add effects to it. This is where you arrange it. So if you don't know what a DAW is, watch the rest of this video, but I'd highly recommend going to another video to find what the best DAW is for you. Personally, there are a few options that I really like, and that has informed my decision of the best free or free trial options. Now, to have a professional level DAW for free is not exactly something that's super common. An exception to that is Universal Audio's Luna, which is a new DAW that is only compatible with Universal Audio hardware. Now, the thing with this is if you are using Universal Audio hardware, you're probably not too concerned with the cost of your DAW because Universal Audio hardware is not the cheapest thing in the world. But it's something to consider if you're just getting started or maybe you're already looking to upgrade the interface that you use. I'd highly recommend looking into Universal Audio stuff since Luna is a full-fledged DAW with a ton of awesome tools. And it's pretty early on, they're still kind of working out some of the bugs, but the more recent versions have been really great. I haven't had any issues with them like I did some of the earlier versions, and it's a super powerful DAW. Now, as far as truly free options, Garageband comes on every Mac, and when it first started, maybe wasn't as usable as a professional level DAW, but in recent years has become an awesome tool. GarageBand is essentially become kind of a version of Logic Lite. Now, if you don't know, Logic Pro X is kind of the professional or flagship version essentially of Apple's recording software, and GarageBand has essentially just become a stripped down version of that. So you can start with GarageBand, and you can always then, if you like the way that GarageBand looks and feels and the workflow works for you, you can always upgrade to Logic Pro X later. And whatever you go with, that's something really important to consider. You want to be able to grow. You don't want to just go get some free DAW to use and then learn all the keystrokes and all the shortcuts and everything you need to be able to do, and then later on down the road have to upgrade to something paid anyway that uses completely different keystrokes and commands, and that's honestly just really annoying, and it gets really annoying really fast. So I'd highly recommend keeping that in mind when choosing even your free DAW. Now, some Focusrite interfaces and other software will come with Ableton Live Lite, and that's actually the one that I would recommend secondary. So Ableton Live Lite is a light version of Ableton Live, you guessed it, and has a lot of the same functionality. Now, there's some limits to it with tracks and things like that, but if you find yourself limited by it, chances are you're probably going to want a professional level or paid DAW anyway. Now, the good thing is, even if you don't have software or a piece of hardware that came bundled with Ableton Live Lite, then you can try Ableton for free for 90 days as of the filming of this video. So you can give the full-fledged license of Ableton a shot for 90 days, and if you really like it, then you can upgrade. Now, I know that's not exactly free, but it is free for 3 months. Another similar setup to that is Reaper. Now, one of my favorite artists, Tycho, uses Reaper, and is really about the only artist of that level that I know that uses Reaper, but they do have a free 60-day trial version, and if you really like it, it's only $60 to get a full license if you do really like Reaper. Now, again, the reason I recommend these is because you want to be able to progress. There are other free ones like Cakewalk and some others I'm not as familiar with, so do your own research on DAWs, but once you get that, now we get into the fun stuff. So this is probably my favorite of all the stuff that we're going to talk about, and certainly the one I use the most, and that is loops and samples. I like finding a drum loop or something that inspires me and makes me create. If you've been on this channel for a little bit, you've heard some of the stuff that I've created with just simple 60-second drum loops maybe, or putting some drum loops together to make a 60-second or 90-second track. Some of the earliest videos I posted were some that were just that, quick minute and a half videos that I just put together some drum loops, particularly from one of the places I'm going to mention here in a minute, called That Sound, which I love, and I put those together to create full tracks that inspired what I played on guitar and sometimes on bass and even some of the keys stuff. So the best place to go for loops and samples, hands down, is Splice. Now, Splice has subscription options starting at $7.99 a month, but if you search for free samples, there are some free samples on their website. Now, they used to have this that was easier to get to, where you can navigate and find and sort by free, but it seems like they've done away with that. Now, I've been a Splice user for a couple of years now. I was a little bit late to the game. I have some friends of mine that have been using it for much longer, and it's really, really excellent. Again, it's almost free if you do decide that you really want to use it. It's $7.99 a month, and then it goes up from there depending on how many credits you feel like you need. So, Splice is great, but probably my favorite, particularly for drum stuff, is That Sound drums. Now, the cool thing about That Sound is they have a free pack that has 500 free samples and loops, and that gives you a good idea of their collection. Now, I'm sure they update it regularly, so it's probably changed since the first time I downloaded it, but that's what really got me hooked on their stuff. So, good product placement on their part. That Sound has a lot of really cool, big, epic drum sounds. Everything from modern and washy to old school, vibey, jazz type kits. They have everything from loops to samples to one-shots. So I'm a big fan, and cool thing, if you're on Splice, you can actually get them from Splice. Now, you can't get the free pack on Splice, but if you do like their stuff and you do decide that you want to pay for a $7.99 a month prescription from Splice, then you can also get their loops. So that is super cool that they've recently started doing that. Now, some of my other favorites are Spitfire LABS, and the reason I like Spitfire LABS is because they are awesome sounds. Now, I first heard of Spitfire because of Hans Zimmer. Now, Hans Zimmer is a film composer and is, of course, legendary when it comes to sampling strings and orchestral instruments, and so that's what really turned me on to Spitfire in the first place. And then I found out about Labs. Now, Labs is a bunch of different free virtual instruments that are super cool. They have this piano that I absolutely love. They have these awesome piano pads. They have a moon guitar, all kinds of really cool brass and different things like that. So there are tons of options, again, to get you started or to get a good feel for the kind of stuff they offer. When it comes to orchestral sampling, I don't think there's anybody doing it any better than Spitfire. And you get all kinds of stuff for free, and you can't beat that. That's why you're here. That's why you're watching this video. the good free stuff, baby. Now the next one that I highly recommend is Komplete Start. So this is also a lot of free options from samples and loops and instruments and all kinds of really cool stuff. Now, I have a complete ultimate bundle, so I have access to much more than this, but honestly, if I had just gotten started, I mean, 2,000 different instruments and samples and loops and sounds that they offer in Komplete Start, that's pretty incredible. I mean, that's a lot of stuff for them to just give away for free. I mean, there's like 7 different synths. I mean, all kinds of really, really cool stuff in this pack. All right, so we're at a little bit of a shift. We're not just talking about loops and samples anymore. We're getting into plugins. And if you've been working in a DAW for any amount of time or been on the internet at all looking up this subject, then you have heard of plugins. Plugins are really awesome. And again, of course, with anything awesome, there are free versions. Now, there are a ton of different places to get free ones. Again, I want to keep everything really simple for you. If you're new to this, I don't want this to be overwhelming. You don't have to go to a bajillion different websites to get good free stuff. Splice, again, has a lot of really cool free plugins. You can go to their website and you can go to plugins and navigate by the free icon, and you can find these free plugins. Now, there's all kinds of stuff. There's really cool vinyl effects and distortions and utility panners and reverbs and all sorts of really cool stuff. Now, the reverb in particular, the echo from Valhalla DSP is really cool. And if I were to tell you a second place to go, I would go to Valhalla DSP. Right now, they have like 3 plugins that are free, and they make some of the best wet effects in the game. By wet effects, I just mean reverbs and delays. Really cool stuff. The Supermassive that they released earlier this year that has stayed free through the pandemic, which is super awesome of them, is probably my favorite plug-in reverb. And again, it was free. So you can't beat that. Now again, if you like what you find on Splice, there are of course some paid options from some of those manufacturers, so be sure to check those out as well if you do feel like spending a little bit of money. All right, so finally, the last thing on this list. We've been through DAWs and loops and samples and plugins. The last thing is being able to share your ideas with others. In 2020, we're not spending that much time in studios. If you've been in a studio with other musicians in the middle to late part of this year, count yourself as very lucky. I've been in the studio literally once this year, which is pretty crazy considering that's a big part of what I do. But I've been able to collaborate with other musicians and producers from home. And I use WeTransfer to share files. Now, WeTransfer is essentially just a file sharing service. I like it because you can send up to 2 gigs free, and most of the time if I'm sending them even a folder of guitar tracks, I don't come close to maxing that out. And again, that's each time you send it. So if you did have a bigger project or something you were sending back and forth, again, not paying for it, you could just do multiple transfers, which might be better anyway because they don't have to spend as long downloading it. Now, there are other paid options of different things, but again, if you want to stay free, WeTransfer is my favorite. So WeTransfer, super simple. They don't have to have an account. You don't have to have an account. You just send it to them. They get a download link. They click it and they download your files. This has been super helpful for me. Again, just collaborating with other musicians because that's what we all want to do. All of this other stuff is really cool and being able to build ideas on your own. But if you want to do this, especially for a living, you need to be able to play with other musicians. So WeTransfer is a super cool service to be able to do that for free. So guys, that is it for this video. I'm trying to keep it short and sweet. These are the best free tools that I've found. I hope it was helpful for you. If it was, please give me a thumbs up. Just go over to the thumbs up button and I just need you to touch it until it turns blue. Once it turns blue, you're free to go. After you drop a comment, let me know what is your favorite free software to use. Is it something I mentioned in this video? Is it something maybe I didn't cover? Is it something other people should know about? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this kind of video and you're getting value out of it, then please smash that subscribe button. It helps me out a ton when I'm making these videos. I'm not getting paid. I'm not making any money doing this. I'm just trying to help out the people. So if you did do all of those things, then you can go check out some of my other videos. Again, myself and the YouTube algorithm really appreciate all the likes and comments and subscribes. And if you did subscribe, hit that bell icon to be notified when my next video is going up. So that's it for this one, and I'll see you guys in the next one.